Hello everybody and welcome back to my weekly vlog. My name as ever is David and you're watching this on the UK GAMERTRON channel. I think that's what we're called. It's been a couple of weeks actually since I've recorded one of these. I've had quite the eventful time of it. Actually, maybe it's not. I don't think you got one last week. I'm actually not sure. But the reason if you didn't get one last week, it might have happened quite just after, but if you didn't, is my Mac decided to break and I had to pay for a new hard drive, which was annoying to say the least. I have lost everything that was on it, had to reinstall the whole thing. Luckily, most of what I had was kept on my external hard drive, so I've still got most of it, but I lost a couple of key things, like a podcast we did before I had uploaded it in time. Annoyingly, I thought I'd uploaded it as well, but anyway, that's not your problem to worry about. This week's vlog, what it's about? Well, I suppose you'll know by now if you saw the header or the headline or the heading of this video, and it's kind of my gaming week again. What I've been up to this week is more of the usual really. I've been continuing to play some Enter the Gungeon. That's for my games night on a Friday or Saturday night. It's probably more often Friday, drink in hand tonight. This is actually, interestingly, the reason I'm having one tonight, this is Sunday I'm recording this, the reason I'm having one tonight is that this will be my last drink for 12 weeks. I'm starting a new exercise program tomorrow. The one I've been doing for the last year or so has actually been going pretty well, but you're not interested in this, but it's been going well, and it's kind of come the time that I need to switch it up and change it up a little. So the next one I've got is a 12-week program, and I'm not allowed to drink while I'm on it. So this is the last one. And those people that know me will know I enjoy a drink. So the next 12 weeks are going to be fun. So what have I been up to over the last week? Like I say, I've been playing Enter the Gungeon for games night. That's been going well. That is a really, really cool game. I'm a little bit annoyed that you've got to do one playthrough of the game before you can, like a whole completion of the game before you can do multiplayer, because Alex and I tried to do multiplayer sometime last week and we didn't manage, because you've got to have completed the game before you can do that, which is really annoying because it seems like a game that is just ideal for multiplayer. And even worse than that, I don't think it's online. I think it's couch co-op, which means because Alex lives at the other end of the country from me, we're not going to be able to do that, which is really frustrating. Beyond that, I have also been playing the Fallout DLC. I have mixed feelings about this game, which is kind of what's going to be the main bulk of our vlog this week. I've enjoyed it and I haven't enjoyed it. I bought the season pass thinking I've not played Fallout in a while and I need to keep up I got the platinum for Fallout 4 and I wanted to go and get all the trophies. And Far Harbor came out. If it wasn't this week, it was last week. It was very, very recently. Far Harbor came out and I wanted to see what it was like. It looked interesting, at least. So yeah, we did that. So the season pass cost me around £30, which so far I feel like I've not got my money's worth. In terms of hours played, probably I have. But in terms of actual enjoyment and value for money, I feel like I haven't got my £30 worth. Obviously, the kind of big part of the £30 season pass has got you a Far Harbor DLC. However, you also included in that so far, I think there's more to come, or at least I would hope there's more to come. You also get like an addition to what you can build, so you can build cages for things and have basically as for those of you that have read The Walking Dead, there is it, oh, I've forgotten one of the it's not Negan, because that's who the bad guy is in the most recent one, but it's, I've forgotten what he is like, but I think it's when they're in the prison and they go and find the other community that has, they've essentially got a fighting ring, so it allows you to make that. It also has included in it a thing called the GAMERTRON DLC, which is essentially just a kind of what you would call like a side quest about you're walking around and you stumble across this robot who's fighting off a bunch of other robots. And I won't go into the details and tell you, but I'll tell you the basic premise and setup for it. And basically what happens is you find a fight another robot, you fight off the aggressive robots, and you find that this other robot who's getting attacked had been travelling with a kind of roving group of traders. And they'd all been killed, and she, the robot, blames herself for it. And you go on a quest to figure out why she was attacked, why our whole family, so to speak, were killed, and to kind of avenge her family's death. And don't get me wrong, it's interesting, but it's not actually amazing. I would, if it was part of the main game and it had come out, if it was part of the main game and that was it, and I had played it out, it would have been one of these side quests that were unremarkable, and I wouldn't have probably spoken about it or remembered it much beyond actually completing it. So where it wasn't bad, it just wasn't necessarily good either. So a little bit disappointed from that. I moved on to actually play Far Harbor, which is almost like the Shivering Isles DLC for Oblivion, in which it's set in its own map, separate to the Commonwealth, and you basically rock up on a boat looking for some girl that has gone lost, and you're hired alongside Valentine to go and find her. And again, I won't go much into it because it's still quite early out, so there might be quite a lot of people playing it. I think in all it takes about 10 to 15 hours to complete everything. If you want to just kind of mainline the main story quest, because there's a lot of side quests with this, it will take you maybe 6 or so hours, and that's probably give or take. It starts off really interesting. Like I say, you just stumble across. You get called by Valentine, and you go into his kind of PI office, and you find out that there's a family that have lost their daughter, and they want you to go and find her. And which is what leads you to Far Harbor. You kind of go up to their home, and they're like, "Oh, she's gone away." The dad's like, "Oh, she's been kidnapped," and the mother's like, "She's just ran away, but we still need to find her." And you go and have a look around her room, and you kind of find some tapes, which kind of alludes to where she's gone. And then you get on the boat and you go and find her, or you go looking for her, which brings you to Far Harbor. Like I say, it starts off really interesting. But then kind of as it progresses, it goes places that aren't interesting. Like I said, there are also side missions and things like that. There was this one that was just completely ridiculous. It was essentially a murder mystery in which a robot rocks up and says, "Our residents of this hotel, one has been murdered. Can you come and figure out who it is?" And it finished. I won't waste any of it because I'm really conscious of spoilers, but essentially it finishes by accident in that I was interviewing or interrogating one of the hotel guests, and they said something, and I essentially said, "Look, just to try and play bad cop to see what they would say, your motive doesn't matter, and I'll find one." And then he just went mental and tried to kill me, and then a little pop-up came up saying, "Well done, you found the murderer." That was just ridiculous. That was stupid. I spent probably about an hour and a half walking around this area trying to figure things out, and for it to fall on its face like that, or just kind of finish on such a damp squib, was just such a waste of time. You don't even get anything good for it either. I got given something like 200 pre-war money, which is absolutely useless in Fallout 4. So that's really bad. As the kind of there's like three main groups in this one. There's the kind of residents of Far Harbor. There's a group of synths, and there is the Children of Atom, I think they're called. They're like the religious mentals. And as it develops, you can guess. It's a Fallout game. You can kind of guess what happens, but it ends up asking you to make this decision that the character or the main protagonist. I've heard in places people describe it as a character you felt completely ill-equipped to deal with this situation. I kind of agree with that to an extent. However, what I felt was that it didn't allow you to pick a subject or pick a point of view and see it through to the end. So I made a decision with the synth group, and I was like, okay, well, as long as I stick to that point of view and I stick to these kind of arbitrary morals that I've invented, then at least I can see it through to the end, and that's a consequence of, or at least I've come to a decision. It doesn't allow you to stick to this kind of moral compass that you set yourself, and you end up to actually get the achievements and complete the Far Harbor DLC proper, you have to go against these self-imposed morals, and it's really, really stupid. I think what it does, or what it wants to do, is you make a decision about the greater good. But it doesn't present that well enough, and it doesn't carry that through well enough either, which leads you to having an ending that doesn't add up, and the final decisions you have to make are just completely ridiculous. In terms of aesthetics, they have introduced this fog, which they don't actually explain, but they have this fog that essentially creeps about, and in the fog there's all these kind of new enemies and things like that, and it starts off giving the game an interesting aesthetic. When you arrive at this harbour, the whole place has a really eerie feel to it that is really compelling, and you're like, oh, I can't wait to get out here and explore this area. But when you actually start to explore it, the fog just becomes annoying, because it means you can never really see too far in front of you, which you would think, oh, well, the Bethesda RPGs don't actually run that well, so that's good. But this one runs even worse. It's whatever jiggery-pokery or whatever physics or number crunching it's having to do to make this fog work. It just makes the game run really badly. Whenever there's an autosave, for example, it has this little 1 to 2 second gap where the whole game just freezes, just long enough for you to get worried about whether the game's frozen or not, and then it kicks back into life and starts working again. And it's not acceptable. We live in a world in which The Witcher 3 exists, which is far more grandiose in scope, I'm afraid, than Fallout, in terms of even character development, narrative prowess, even the way the game looks is far better. I understand the reason that Fallout and Bethesda RPGs are bad, because you can interact with much more things in the world, as opposed to The Witcher, which is you can't interact with quite as many things, i.e. I can walk into any room in Fallout and pick up almost anything in the room. Can't do that in The Witcher, but it's not really an excuse to me. I mean, like I said, we live in a world where these massive, beautiful RPGs exist and work really well, and this still doesn't in 2016, and it's just unacceptable. And it began to annoy me to the point that I've come away from this with a negative feeling. As you again kind of progress throughout the main campaign, you get to the kind of, I would say, the latter third of the game. All of a sudden, the game rips you out of the environment you're in and puts you in this puzzle Minecraft-like area in which you've got to build blocks. It's almost like they've tried to kind of shoehorn in a way to have their build mechanic useful in the main game proper, because you can kind of largely pass by it in the proper game. I started off quite enjoying it. However, the puzzles become really convoluted and stupid, and they're not so much bad or not so much difficult. They just involve a lot of backing to and fro from one another, going backwards and forwards, retreading the same old areas, which doesn't help. It becomes really grating, and by the time we got to the last, there's 5 of these puzzle rooms, and I won't tell you any more about it or where it comes from. I'll probably go into it more in the next podcast, but for now, let's just talk about the puzzles themselves. So there's 5 of them, and by the time you get to the 5th one, you just want it to end. Don't get me wrong, it has style, and it's a stark change to what the main game is made up of, and I think if they'd done it properly, it would have been a welcome break and a welcome diversion to the main game. But the way it's actually implemented is quite poor, I think. I think overall, I'm left with, having played the first 3 DLCs in Far Harbor as a whole, I'm a little bit disappointed. I think it was fine. I enjoyed my time with the game in parts. I didn't enjoy probably quite a lot of it. I think it was nice to kind of go back and integrate yourself into that world, it was a fun world, even if it's not the best RPG anymore. It never really was, to be fair. It's not even Bethesda's best RPG. And so yeah, it was fine, and now I'm finished. I'm glad I'm done with it, but I'm also not feeling bad that I've played it. I maybe feel bad at the moment that I've paid £30 for a season pass. However, that's a different story for a different day, and I guess for now we'll just look at the Far Harbor DLC and kind of take away from. I'm just left with meh. I was going to say I'm disappointed. I'm kind of not disappointed, but I'm also not overjoyed with it either. It's a little bit boring. I guess that's all I've got to say for the moment. Like I say, if you listen to our podcast, which you'll get in iTunes, it's called the GAMERTRON podcast, you'll no doubt hear me talk about that a bit more in depth with Alex. But aside from that, I guess that kind of wrap us up for today. If you want to kind of see what else we're up to, you can like us on Facebook, which is GAMERTRON. Yeah, it's facebook.com/GAMERTRON. You can also follow us on Facebook at UK GAMERTRON. And you can follow me on Twitter, which is at GTSmiley, GTSMILLIE. And that's it. That's been my weekly vlog and my thoughts on the current state of the Fallout 4 DLC. And with that, I have been David. This has been my weekly vlog. We are GAMERTRON. Hello. Da 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 da.